Today I'm going to be showing you how I created this beautiful bag. Before we start, let me show you the finished bag so you can see what we are working towards. I absolutely love how this bag came out. The chunky texture gives it such a beautiful, stylish look, and I added these silver chain bundles to give a more elegant finish. Make sure you watch until the end. Let's get started. Before we begin, let me show you everything I'm going to be using for this project. I'm using my yarn, my crochet hook, my scissors and my stitch marker. I always recommend having everything you need next to you before you start crocheting because it makes the process much easier. So now that we have everything ready, let's start making the actual bag. I'm starting this bag by making a chain of 15. I'm going to take my time here because the foundation chain is very important. You want your chains to be neat and consistent because this will form the starting point of the bag. So I'm making my 15 chains. Once I've completed the 15 chains, I'm going to start working into them and building up the first part of the bag. One thing I actually love about creating a crochet bag is that you don't really see the final product when you start. You start with just a ball of yarn and a crochet hook, and somehow, stitch by stitch, it starts turning into something you can actually use. And I think that's what makes handmade items so special. You mean you're not just buying or making a bag, you are creating something from scratch. Every stitch is part of the story. Another thing I find interesting is that you can take the exact same design and completely change its personality by just changing the color, the type of yarn, or even the handles. So this bag could be black, cream, brown, pink. There are so many possibilities. And honestly, sometimes when I crochet, I don't even realize how much I've done until I stop and look at the bag. At the beginning, you are counting the stitches and concentrating so much. And suddenly when you are like, wait, I'm actually making a handbag. That is probably one of my favorite things about crochet. The transformation. You start with something so simple and you end up with something beautiful, practical and completely handmade. And now we can already start seeing the shape coming together. One thing I really enjoy about working with t-shirt yarn is how quickly the project starts to grow. You can see the texture almost immediately. Now I'm going to continue working my rounds. As I go, I'm increasing the rounds so that the bag starts to develop its shape. This is where you want to pay attention to your stitches and keep your work nice and even. I'm not rushing this part because I want the bag to have a nice, neat structure. We are getting there. I'm continuing with the same process and increasing my rounds. For this particular bag, I worked a total of 11 rounds. You can see that the bag is now starting to look much more like the final shape. This is probably one of my favorite parts of crochet, the moment when you can finally see what the project is becoming. Let me tell you a little story about how I actually started creating bags. When I first started making bags, I wasn't necessarily thinking I'm going to build a business around this. I actually started because I needed something to occupy my time, and there were moments when I had time on my hands, and instead of just sitting around, I thought, let me just pick up my crochet hook and make something. And that is when I started experimenting with bags. And I remember at first I was using a larger crochet hook because I wanted to work faster. And honestly, I wanted to buy myself some time. I thought if I use a bigger hook, this bag will come together much quicker. And it actually worked. The bigger hook allowed me to make bigger stitches so that I could see the project growing much faster. But something interesting happened along the way. What started as just a way of keeping myself busy slowly became something I really enjoyed. I started thinking about different designs, different colors, different yarns, and different types of handles. And before I knew it, I wasn't just making bags to pass the time anymore. I was actually creating something that people could use and enjoy. That is one thing I love about crochet. Sometimes you start something without knowing where it's going to take you. You might think you are just trying to keep yourself busy, but that little thing you are doing could actually become a skill, a passion, or even a business. And that is exactly what happened with me. As you watch me take this bag, remember that this didn't start with a perfect plan. It started with some yarn, a big crochet hook, and simply wanting to use my time as well. Now we've reached one of those satisfying parts of the process. At this stage, the bag has been worked from the inside. So the side you are seeing right now is actually the inside of the bag. So what I'm going to do now is turn the bag inside out accurately, turn it right side out so that the stitches are sitting on the outside the way I want them to. I'm gently pushing and shaping the corners and sides as I turn it. And look at that, you can already see the difference. Once it is turned, the stitches look much more defined and the bag starts to take on that beautiful finished shape. This is one of my favorite moments because suddenly you can see the bag becoming live. I'm also taking a little time to straighten and shaping it properly because I want that clean, neat and professional looking finish. And there we have it. The outside of the bag is now showing and we are one step closer to the final look. We are about to complete the main body of our bag. It already looks like a handbag, but we are not finished yet because we still need to add our handles. Now I'm moving on to the handles. This is an important part because the handles are what will allow us to carry the bag comfortably. I take my time with this part because I want both sides to be positioned properly. Once I've completed one side, I make sure I check the placement before doing the other side so that my handles are balanced. And now you can see the handle starting to take shape. I'm going to repeat the same process on the other side. I really like using these chain handles because they give the chunky crochet bag a completely different look. The combination of chunky black crochet and silver chain makes the bag look simple but still very stylish. Now we are at the part where I'm going to attach the silver hooks to the bag. These little silver hooks are going to connect the crochet bag to the chain handle, and I really love how they add a more polished and stylish finish. I'm first positioning the hooks exactly where I want them to sit. I'm making sure both sides are evenly placed because I want the bag to hang nicely once the chain is attached. Once I'm happy with the positioning, I'm carefully securing the hooks onto the bag. And I'm taking my time with this tape because the handles will carry the weight of the bag. So I want to make sure the attachment is nice and secure. And now I'm repeating the same process on the other side. Now that both hooks are attached, we are ready to connect the chain. And honestly, this moment when it starts looking like an actual handbag. Now that both sides are done, I'm going to make sure everything is secure. I'm checking the handles and making sure they are sitting evenly. This is also the time to look over the back and tighten up any loose ends. Whenever you are making a handmade item, don't skip the finishing touches. Those little details can make a big difference to the final appearance of your product. And I'm finally done. Look at the finished bag. I absolutely love how it turned out. The chunky crochet texture, the black color and the silver chain. And this is the same design that I showed you at the beginning of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share and comment. Bye.